Good morning. It is Tuesday, April the 28th. It's moving along. You know, the other day I told you about my camera. I had the European plug to it instead of a US plug. The company that I bought the camera for is making it right. They are sending me a correct plug, plus some little added goodies for the inconvenience. And they called me yesterday, and I was talking with the fellow, and I said, it's not a problem, except I don't have any European plugs or adapters. And he basically told me, he said, I'm sorry. He said, we're like everybody else. We're running 10% below capacity, and, I made a mistake, or whoever grabbed the camera to put it in made the mistake. He said, I'll be honest, I don't know if it was me or my coworkers. I said, that's okay, but you might want to give your coworkers a head up if it's going to a U.S. address. You might want to put an AC plug in there, or make sure you pick up the right camera. So, we kind of giggled about it, and I told him, well, once it gets here, I'll send you back the cord that I can't use. He goes, well, you can keep it, don't worry about it. I said, why would I want to keep it? I can't use it. I don't plan on going to Europe anytime soon. Okay. So we had a good laugh about it, and he said, I guess you're right, and he said, okay, if you want to send it back, you send it to me. But it just gets weird. Everything that's going on. And I told him, on the advertisement, you show a card reader as something different. He told me, he said, well, the card reader is a striker. And he said, the card reader you have is a striker, and it should say it on there somewhere. And I said, doesn't, just says card reader. So, he's like, oh my God, they really have changed those boxes, haven't they? So, we kind of laughed about it because the camera is made in Japan. Has plugs in it that work for that, although they do put the correct plugs in for the chargers for the US and, those that use AC adapters, plug-ins. But it was just rather, comical. And, we had a good laugh, and he said, thank you for laughing about this. You've been very pleasant about it. I said, it's okay. I'm dealing. I said, I will tell you this, though, out of it. I found a charger that's compatible that gives me a virtual battery. So, it's a twofer for me. Boy. Okay. I don't have any crochet, any knitting done. Just hasn't happened in this house. However, last night I did reach 1,000 masks that I've made for healthcare workers or healthcare facilities. That's not including the masks that I do sell, to the public around here and online on my Etsy shop. And then to those of you that, send me a request privately. And, if it weren't for the sales and the online sales, I wouldn't have had the money to be able to send to these facilities. So you guys helped me all along, and I'm extremely grateful. Another thing that I'm extremely grateful for is those of you that answered my request yesterday for face sizes, because I was able to get a face mask that will fit my friend. Now, I showed you this face mask. This is one of my private ones, and this is the Olsen mask. And, it's a nice little fit. Pretty good fit. Works well for me. My husband's not so impressed with it. And here's why. This is the large size. And did fit under my first chin, almost to my second chin. But it's not very big for a man. And my friend doesn't really like the pleated mask. He was hoping for one like this. So with those measurements, I was able to create him a mask that fits him out of this Olsen mask in a manly fabric. So he's pretty happy with his new mask that he's wearing around town. And you'll notice these little ties. I had told you about the using pantyhose. And of course, I'm not going to tell you about using pantyhose if I haven't tried it myself. And this is actually half of a ring. This is one of the rings you cut off of the pantyhose. And I just used the Walmart knee highs, semi-opaque. They come in almost 4 different colors. They come in this, nice little kind of cream colored. And you'll see how stretchy that gets. And how big that is. That makes a nice big loop. And I tell people that they can cut it in half. And that they could stretch it a little further. And then they can do a fisherman's knot, which is a square knot over one side. And you tighten it up a little bit. And then you slide this side down here. And you do a square knot over this side. And then you have a very adjustable ring. Now, when I was beading, this is how I made a lot of beaded necklaces with stones with the leather cording or whatever cording I was using, rat tail, so that people could adjust it for their neck size however they wanted to. And that is a great option for those people who choose to use it. And let me tell you, it's real nice and soft on your ears. I haven't been making any with elastic for me and my family for a while now. I still use the elastic, because I still have some elastic. I'd gone out to an Amish store Saturday. I had done a meetup with someone to get them some masks for them and friends of theirs. And then I went out to the Amish store because I was looking for some more fabric. And they had a certain line of fabric in the store. And I get in there and it was very nice and pleasant, the fellow was. On the door it says you have to wear a mask. He's wearing a mask. Of course, the other 2 Amish girls that came into the store to shop weren't. I was. But, Amish have religious exemptions. So, and I understand they're not going to wear the mask, a lot of them, so I'm okay with that. I've got my mask on. Mine's more to protect them from me. So, I find this beautiful bolt of beautiful fabric that can be used, male or female. And I'm looking on it and counting, and I'm like, oh, there's probably 5 yards on there. So I asked him if I could have it, and we got to the end. There was just a little bit left, and I said, well, how much more is that? And it came to 6 1/4 yards, so I took the whole thing. Did a couple more shoppings, and I love going into the Amish stores because a lot of the Amish women will make bags and wallets and all kinds of goodies that they sew to sell to the public. So I got to look at some of those things and I'll be going back to purchase a purse because I really like the design of the purse. They just didn't have the color in that I cared for. So, while I was there, and as he's, measuring, I noticed that he's got elastic. I said, "You've got some of the elusive elastic." And he said to me, "Yes, I do. Do you need some?" I said, "Yes. I can always use. I'm making lots of masks for healthcare workers." And, he's like, "Oh, bless you." And he said to me, "Your mask looks a little different than a lot of the masks that I see other people wearing." And I said to him, "Well, it has channels so they can change out the elastic once it wears out." He goes, "Oh, that's beautiful. Can you tell me how it's made?" I have no problem telling him how it's made. He's wearing a one of those blue paper masks. So as I'm telling him, the girls are listening, and I told him, I said, "Come on up and I'll explain to you." And I always have one in the pocket of my jacket because when I'm showing someone the pocket filter and, how to put the filter in, and it has the nose piece, and then I always show them, how to take the mask off and how to put it on when you put it on, because once you get it on up here, you want to make sure it comes down just under your chin, and then, press your nose. So I'm showing him that and telling him how it's done and how I make them. And he's, "Oh, thank you." And he says, "Now, we have this bag here that's already cut." And then he reaches over and he starts measuring out more elastic. He goes, "This one I'm giving to you free." I said, "Why?" He goes, "'Cause you showed us how to make some new mask." So, yeah. And then he also threw in a bottle of hand sanitizer. Now, granted, their hand sanitizer is mostly alcohol. And it wasn't even a full bottle. But, I hadn't expected that, so I got 2 nice little gifts for just being kind to someone. But I was laughing because as I was paying him, I realized, like most Amish, he had no shoes on. It just gave me a little giggle. So I thanked him very much and told him I'd be back in the future. Because it's a store that is a lot closer than where I have been going. I have been going about 45 minutes away from me to do some shopping and finding some fabrics and things. And he was a lot closer. He's about 20 minutes away from where I'm at. And he had quite a few nice goods. And I could go down a little further down the road and get some meat and cheese, flour, if I needed it, yeast. Yeah, I found some yeast. So, it was a nice little trip Saturday. But, I'm extremely grateful to those of you that purchased. Now, what I was telling you about this Olsen mask, my husband, doesn't really fit his face. He's got a bit of a beard. So I have been experimenting with it to try to increase the size because this is the biggest size they make. This is the adult size. But as you know, there are a lot of people that are plus size, and that was my quest yesterday because I realized I have gotten quite a few requests. Is this plus size? Now I do make one that's a little bit bigger, that's about 10.5 to 11 inches across of the pleated, which when you measure your face, the mask should be no more than 2 inches smaller than what your total measurement was. Like mine is 12 inches this way. So the one mask I make is 9 and 7/8. It's so close to 10 inches, that it's 10 inches. So that fits me well. My husband's measurement was 12 1/4. So it worked for him, the mask that I make. But I do have one that's larger, that's about 11 inches that I make. And that has worked for a lot of the men. I make one that is 14 inches for those that have big bushy beards, um, because they can put their beard into their mask, which is much needed. Otherwise, they've got to wash that 20 seconds at least when they get home. So it's face measurements and mask measurements. A lot of us are using some just generic, which fit most people. But I realize there are plus size people, and with all the requests I've had, I'm trying to figure out a way to fill that need. So when I get someone who says to me that they're extra plus size, you know, you have to go about asking them if they can measure their face and measure down just, to under about right there, or at least to their chin. So some of them don't want to do it, and I'm like, okay, I understand that. And you know, could you please tell me what size you are? And I have had a couple of people who've been open about it, but there's a lot of people that don't want to talk about their size. And it's not because they're that size. It's because there's so many people that fat shame. And that is a serious issue for those of us that are fluffy. You know, people will say things to you, they move away from you when you sit down next to them, those kind of things, and you always laugh and think, oh, well, that's their loss because I'm an excellent person, fun to talk to, and I'll be friends with anybody. So, that has been a little bit of an issue with those of you that answered that request and have given me lots of information. You wouldn't believe how much information. I am now able to predict some larger sizes and create some larger size masks for those people that have requested them. Because, I would hate to get a mask that you paid for, like, and you couldn't wear it because it doesn't fit. And although I say all sales are final, I always include a note with it that if this does not fit, please let me know and I will do whatever I can to make it fit for those of them. That's something I've started including as of last night because I was so concerned about it. Everybody needs a mask. Nowadays, you got to go out in a mask. And honestly, folks, I think we're going to be in these masks for quite some time. From my days working in infectious disease, I think it's going to be a long-term thing for a while. So, if you don't have a mask, get you a t-shirt, cut it up, tie it up into a mask, whatever. Take advantage of those people that are offering masks. I have a lady that lives here in my area that sews masks, and she had run out of elastic, so she's doing ties. And she was featured in the paper, and she had her phone number in there. Now, I didn't call about a mask because she does a thing where you do porch pickups, and if you leave a donation, fine. If you can't, fine. Those kind of things. But I did call her and give her the information about the pantyhose, so that she had an alternative to making the ties. I mean, when you make the ties, you're taking away fabric that you'd be using to actually make the mask part. So, and she said, well, why would you give me that information? That was very nice of you. I said, well, we're all in this together. So I made a new friend this week just by reaching out to pass on a maker information. So, yeah. Okay, I've gone on that little ramble long enough. And now it's time to get to some what in tarnation. And that's all I have for you. This first one, Tennessee had some tornadoes that were pretty bad. And this first one is a feel-good story about that. Quilt carried off by Tennessee tornado, returned to family. A Tennessee family was reunited with a beloved military quilt more than a week after it was carried off by a tornado. Beulah Lockmiller's Chattanooga home was destroyed April the 12th when a tornado swept through the area, and her family discovered after the storm that the dresser that contained a sentimental quilt had been carried away by the twister. The quilt belonged to Beulah's husband Larry, who died about 10 years ago. The quilt contained patches and photos from places he visited during his military deployment, as well as a poem he wrote while in Saudi Arabia, the family said. A photo of the missing quilt was posted on Facebook, where it was recognized by Times Free Press photographer Troy Stolt, who had snapped a photo of the quilt amid other wreckage 2 days after the tornado. Stolt returned to the spot where he took the picture, but the quilt was gone. The family was then tipped off by another Facebook post from a woman named Pilar Estrada, who was attempting to find the owner of a quilt recovered from wreckage by her son Aaron while he was assisting with cleanup operations. Get a drink. You'd think not going outside as much my allergies wouldn't act up. Not true. It's kind of unbelievable, just like everything else that's happened this week. I'm just so excited, Beulah told the Times Free Press. To think that someone had a heart to return it just means a lot to me. The quilt was returned to the family Thursday. She said she plans to take extra special care of the quilt after its long journey. I don't know where I'm going to put it. I'm going to protect it, so if I have to put it in a 5,000-pound safe, that's where it'll go. So, that was a cute little story. Sorry about the allergies, guys. Arkansas family creates hanging blanket for pandemic-friendly hugs. An Arkansas family is going viral after taking to social media to show off their invention, a plastic hug blanket, to allow for social distancing compliant embraces. Paul Ayub of Conway said the plastic hug blanket was concocted by his wife Katie to allow the family to meet and embrace a new arrival. It was my wife's idea that I didn't support in the beginning. It was just a crazy idea, he told KTHV-TV. It all spawned from the fact that my sister-in-law, Christy, is having my niece, Mariah. The blanket, which hangs like a curtain in the Ayub's family's front doorway, was constructed from items including a shower curtain, tape, and hot glue. It includes arms with sleeves to allow for a full hug through the protective barrier. My wife bought jumbo-size bags, gallon-size bags, and those are the armholes. He posted a video of his family testing out the plastic hug blanket on TikTok, where it quickly went viral with millions of views. It exploded, and I got an "I told you so" from my wife. Rightfully so, she was missing the things that we take for granted. And she was like, "I just made you TikTok famous," Ayub said. "I think people are missing things we take for granted, like little things like a hug." Can't believe I'm tearing up. In a time where things seem helpless and scary, people gravitated towards it. Such a sap sometimes. Now this next one is a very interesting video. Dolphins glow in bioluminescent waves off California. A boat traveling off the California coast encountered an unusual side effect of bioluminescent waves, glowing dolphins in the water. Photographer Patrick Coyne, who captured video last week of unusually bright bioluminescent waves crashing on Newport Beach, was offshore in the same area with Newport Casual Adventures Captain Ryan Lawler on Thursday night when they spotted the dolphins. He captured video showing glowing dolphins just under the surface of the water. The video was posted to Newport Coastal Adventures Facebook page. The glowing effect is caused by bioluminescent algae in the water. And it's an amazing video. And you know there's going to be links to all of these, so you get to see all of it. This next one, I don't understand why people take wild animals in, make them pets, but, you know, they do. So, okay. Police officer called to wrangle loose dog finds white fox instead. A Minnesota police officer who responded to a report of a small dog running loose through a neighborhood ended up capturing something more unusual, a white fox. The Coons Rapid Police Department said Community Service Officer Eric Prendel responded to a local home where a resident reported a dog about the size of a fox was running loose through a yard. No doubt. Prendel spotted the animal in a nearby yard and discovered when he came closer it wasn't a dog at all, but an actual fox. He said the animal was friendly and approached him curiously. It started walking toward me nonchalantly, he said. Prendel said he tapped his leg like he would call a dog, and the animal followed him as he walked back to his patrol vehicle. I got back to my squad and opened up the door, and it didn't hesitate. It hopped right into the back of my squad, Prendel said. He said the white fox behaved more like a domestic dog than a wild animal. The funny thing was, you could pet the thing. It was actually really friendly. He took the fox to Save a Fox Rescue in Faribault, where it was later reunited with owner Veronica Amanrud. Amanrud said a friend had spotted a police department Facebook post and recognized the fox named Akela. Or maybe it's Aquila. We were just grateful he was safe and alive, she said. Prendel said the call out was his first encounter with a fox while on the job. That was definitely one of the most memorable calls I've had. Not many people can say they've had a fox jump into the back seat of their car. This next one I think is awful funny. I saw something about it about a week, maybe a week and a half ago, about a skate park in California, in San Clemente, that they had taken and put a bunch of sand in the skate park to kind of keep people from using it, you know, congregating and social distancing and all that. Well, you know, didn't stay unused long. Dirt bikers make use of sand-covered skate park in California. And there's video. Officials in a California city buried a popular skate park in sand to deter skateboarders from violating the coronavirus lockdown orders. But the sand-covered park ended up attracting a new crowd. Dirt bikers. Connor Erickson posted a video to YouTube showing how he and some friends visited Ralph's State Park in San Clemente to ride their dirt bikes across the 37 tons of sand dumped onto the park by city officials to prevent gatherings amid the COVID-19 pandemic. The video shows Erickson and his friends helping a group of skateboarders clear away some sand to use the park for its originally intended purposes. I think it's a big joke. These kids are cooped up inside their house and just want to go out and have some fun. And while I'm telling you to stay home, we have all this evidence. People keep pointing to Sweden, who's doing the herd mentality where they're not encouraging people to stay home, to go about and do their business so that they can contract the virus and become immune to it. That's what um, and that's what the herd theory has. That enough people will get it and they'll become dispersed enough that you'll become immune to it. Okay. I don't want to take the chance. But we are finding out a lot of things every day about this virus that weren't exactly what we thought they were. And that is the nature of science, folks. As you go along, you find what you thought it was about didn't work, that it was something totally different. So, we'll see. But I do think that we're going to be wearing masks for quite some time, and there will be some social distancing changes for a lot of people for a long time now. This is new World War III that we're fighting, in a sense. So yeah, but I would encourage everybody to get out and get some sunshine if you can find it. We've had overcast days, and sunshine is a great disinfectant. As a NICU nurse, um, we were told to have 2 or 3 pairs of shoes, and in order to disinfect our shoes, the best way was to leave them out 24 hours, in sunlight. The UV rays do some disinfecting, and that's what a lot of people use when they are sterilizing items, is a specialized UV uh, light to sterilize. So yeah, it's a good thing. Sun's good for us. Besides, it'll help us with some of those lower depressive moods. So get out and look at the sky. Okay, guys, I'll see you again later. Don't know when. But, yeah, everybody have a great week. And if you're out there shopping, be kind. Bye.